Native Fry's getting his whiskey vagoggles. His vagoggles on. His vag goggles. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to DG360. We're having a good, fun time here. I had so many comments that was like, DG, where are you? Are you okay? What happened? It's been a crazy 2 weeks. I'm back now. I'm having fun, and we're going to watch Death of a Spaceman together because it's very important for me that we stick to the original narrative of Death of a Spaceman. Now, what is Death of a Spaceman? Before we watch Death of a Spaceman, and I'm sure that Chris Roberts will be in this because he promised that he would be. I can't wait to see if this talk has any substance to it whatsoever. I want an in-depth talk on what we can expect from the death sequence. I want that immersive life. I want to live it. I want to live the life. And then when I die, I want to come back as somebody different and inherit all, hopefully all, but nah, there'll be tax on it. At least a lot of the assets that I've acquired in that life. Now, it's controversial topic because some people, are going to say, hey, I perhaps don't like this gameplay because perhaps you're going to be taxed when you die. Right? Perhaps some of those items aren't going to be there because, you're, in terms of the gameplay, in terms of the lore of what's happening in the game, when you die, essentially Death of a Spaceman says that you create another character. And that character can be whoever you want it to be, a relative, somebody close to the family, whatever. And then you inherit all the goods from that person, which happened to be you. And now you're a new you, right? And that gameplay, I thought initially when I read Death of a Spaceman was very cool because it makes you think about the consequences of your actions in the game so that not everybody's just rip roaring boom 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 boom, which don't get me wrong, I love the boom boom, I love to yard up, but I also want there to be consequences to actions so that, there's a lot of people out there that are always like grief, 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 and grief, and grief, grief. God, we saw it at the Van Duel mask party. We saw it. And you know what? Space should be dangerous. I am pro fun. I am pro danger. I am pro chaos, right? The security systems are going to be there to help with your style of gameplay. If you're PvEer and you don't like the griefing and the PvP, which is PvP, right? And sometimes it gets extreme, right? Then it goes into the griefing category. Okay, great. Get into a lawful system. That's how the game's going to split up, that type of gameplay with the security of the system that you're in. Okay. Boom Boom is fun, right? Anarchy. Boom Boom is fun. At least I love it. And if you like the boom boom, you're going to live in the lawless part of space. Now, in the lawless part of space, you better be very careful and it better have its rewards, right? Because if the original narrative of Death of the Spaceman holds concrete here, what we're saying then is that there is a hell of a lot of risk for those that like the boom boom. There is a hell of a lot of risk for those people that love to be in the lawless space. So better be a hell of reward, right? Because we're deciding to put ourselves in chaotic situations. So we've got to navigate that scenario with Death of a Spaceman. And we have to be careful about our actions because they will have dire consequences. And that is why I loved Death of a Spaceman. And I'm hoping that when I watch this, that we're going to keep onto the narrative. So let's watch it without further ado. Let's watch Death of a Spaceman here. And let's pray that they keep the initial narrative. Now, I know this is very controversial. Some people are going to be upset. They're going to be like, DG, don't you understand that if we keep with the initial narrative, the original narrative, then what's going to end up happening is that you're going to lose a lot of your assets that you gain? Yes. Yes, in fact, yes, I understand that. I absolutely do. And I like that. Because that's consequences. That's real life. That's like when your dad comes in. And he says, you're grounded. You drove my car. You wrecked it into a tree, son. You're grounded, right? Right, yes. Let's watch. What's up, back to Q?
Hey everybody, welcome to Calling All Devs, the series where we take questions from you, the Star Citizen community, and pose them directly to our developers. On this show, we got something a little different, a little special. It's October, it's Halloween time, it's spooky time, and we, of course, are going to talk about Death of a Spaceman. Now, Death of a Spaceman was first introduced back in 2013. We are going to get the update on where we're at now, where we're going forward. And to do so, we have two esteemed guests with us in no particular order. We got Richard Tyrer from the Core Gameplay Group.
Welcome
Hi,
to
Richard.
the stream execute.
Hello, how's it going?
And this is Chris, right?
That is right.
Chris?
The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, is what I would think would be appropriate. thing we said here.
It's been a while since we've chatted. So
This is momentous, man. That he is appearing on this. You know, this is quite momentous that he's taken time. I'm very glad at seeing this version of Chris, like just brushing the dust off the shoulders, the dirt off the shoulders, and rising to the occasion. And being involved in discussions with his passion, with his game. It is very refreshing to see this, and I encourage more of this from Chris.
this one's probably going to go a little bit long, whatever. We're all very loquacious, so I'm going to sit back. Let's jump into this. Death of a Spaceman as a primer. Let's introduce it to people. We haven't talked about it in a while. Just, what is it?
The idea with Death of the Spaceman is to try to get some kind of meaningful consequence to dying.
Right, consequences.
Like,
boom.
Games you play modern games anyway.
Okay, for those people that are here right now, you're here for a reason, right? You understand. You understand why you're here now, don't you?
You die, you respawn back, a few seconds before you die, and you keep on doing it again. So it doesn't really feel like there's much consequence to dying, and a lot of times your gameplay approach is pretty sloppy. I mean, like, I know when I play
and boring. And eventually, what do you want this to be a fucking BR? Right. We don't want that. We don't want that from Star Citizen. We just don't want, like, lock and load and reload and go back in, guns blazing, you die. Okay, never mind, it's fine. Go back in, lock, load, boom, go in, back in, lock, load, boom. No consequences means no fun, means dull, means one layered. No three-dimensional qualities that would ever make me want to continue to play. So this is why this is an important talk.
Playing a standard FPS shooter in
that
the story
I'm gonna
mode,
like
I just
this.
keep blasting into people. I don't really think about it. I die, I start again. Whereas if you play, a game like, say, for instance, Demon Souls, all the years ago, and all the ones past it, there's real consequence. I mean, you die, and you've got to fight back through all those enemies. You've lost all the experience that you gained, the souls in the case of Demon Souls. But the thing with Demon Souls, and it was one of the things I was playing. It reminded me of the good old, the days in the 80s and the 90s when you'd make games, and dying was
It had an impact. It was extreme. You felt it when you died. Yes. Bring it back to this millennial crowd so they understand how to live life. They understand what it is to live, the excitement that they're missing, that they have no clue is even there. Yes.
Had a real consequence. You wanted to finish your level before you died, or else you had to do the level again, right? So
Native's like, I'm subscribing to that.
Level or achieve something you really felt, proud and happy doing yourself, which is definitely, I think,
thank you, Native.
Of the mechanics that makes Demon Souls and its subsequent games, so both infuriating and rewarding when you manage to do it. So kind of
thanks for that subscription,
like,
Native.
what kind of consequence can we have in our persistent universe in terms of how do we encourage the players to stay alive? How do we encourage the players to keep their ship or repair their ship intact? We don't want people to just go, oh, I got a scratch, I'm just going to respawn in a perfectly pristine state for the character or the ship. And so Death of the Spaceman was sort of an idea to give an association with your player character in the game, in terms of this is who you are, and you want to keep yourself alive as possible, as much as possible, and identify with your avatar as an actual real person and character, and you care about, and you want to keep alive.
Yes.
And then finally, when you've had one too many close calls or lost one too many battles, you no longer can be resuscitated.
Yes. I liked the augmentations that happened to you according to the original narrative and theorycraft of Death of a Spaceman, where you wear yourself down to parts and pieces. You got yourself a robotic arm, a robotic leg. Eventually, there's not much left of you, and then boom, life gone. Start over, new character. Some of your assets get transferred over. Loving it.
And you have to pass on essentially to your next of kin, which will have you call out basically who your next of kin is when you're sort of doing your character creation. And that idea is whether it's passing it down to your son or your daughter or a relative or a friend or whatever it would be, you call that out, and when that does, your possessions and reputation kind of pass down, but not all of them, right? So there's always,
all right, we got it. We've explained it.
And, there's
move it along.
The sins of the father aren't fully invested on the son, but there's a little bit of that. And so, the idea would be, you would want to, live as long and a healthy life as possible before you pass on.
And some people,
your project.
And some people, because of this game design that they want to, that initially they're putting in, that they want to, according to how it is now, before we've ended this video, because of this feature or this idea that Chris has, you're going to see some people that never want to leave a planet because of this feature. Maybe they just want to stay on the planet, live on a planet, farm on a planet, tend to their place on their planet with their hab, because of this feature, because of this. Because there's real life consequences in a game, man. Yes, and Axe says, I made a lot of money from Jedi and SWG that wanted me to travel to them and resurrect them, so they didn't lose their XP. I wonder if SC will be similar. Begging for a medic to come and save your butt so you don't lose a life. That's interesting. Perhaps there will be some type of element of gameplay with medics that will be able to come in and maybe rejuvenate you or help you in a way. Put on that robotic arm, or put on, help extend your life, and perhaps those people will have to come see you. The Moby Glass will be adding features as we continue forward, and perhaps one of those features will have a system in which we are able to talk to medics directly, or organizations that focus on medic gameplay with building blocks. It's absolutely possible, Anak. Yes, dude. Right. Some people won't. Right. Some people will get a ticket on a Starliner and fly off on a Genesis Starliner, native fry. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is one of the reasons I really like the original narrative of Death of a Spaceman, why I think it's important that they really stick to it.
Progeny or whatever, and so that was the inspiration of Death of the Spaceman, to really give a sense of kind of close association with your avatar and your character, and if at the end of the day you've got to be there at your essentially the God view of the funeral of the character that you spent a year or so venturing around Star Citizen, there should be a tear in your eye when it happens.
Yes.
And so that was the goal, and so it was really a mechanic of how can we do that inside the game, inside our science fiction setting, which was coming up with this concept of in the future, with all the medical science we have, in states that you may consider you would be dead now, you would not be able to be brought back to life or repaired. Potentially we could do that in the future, but maybe we could only do it so many times. And so, in some ways, it's a little like the old school of you've got so many lives, right? And once your lives are done, the game's over. And the concept was that the maybe the more the worse the death, you're in some big fireball. That's more serious in terms of the lives you lose off your character than it would be if you were down and bleeding out and someone came and got you and managed to repair you, fix you up in a medical table or a hospital. And the idea would be, you would want to not run out of lives, and potentially there could be things you could do over time.
You would not want to run out of life.
Maybe add a life back to you or whatever, but I'm talking lives in a gamer sense here, but in general, we're trying to put it inside the fiction of the world. But the idea is to have real persistence to your avatar and, wear and tear. It's also one of the reasons why we've got things like wear in the game. It's essentially one of the things that we have for equipment, we're going to have for characters. You're going to get older, things get old, and all of that.
Yes, I want to see aging. How many of you guys out there want to see aging? You guys want to see aging on your character? You guys want to get old in the game? I'm curious. Because I do. I would love that gameplay to watch my character get older. I would love if, like, I lived a full life in a game, went through crazy battles in space, and happened to live a full life and died just simply of old age. Like, that would be fantastic. I've never done that in a game. I want to do that in a game. I want to do that in a game.
In the game, but it's not fully working. But that's all systems that are on the plan, or we need to turn on properly, because that's part of the problem with what we're doing right now. Is we're building this, incredibly complicated, interconnected sort of simulation system, and not all the pieces are there quite yet. So even though we built some of the pieces and we can functionally do stuff with them, because the other pieces aren't there, the whole system doesn't work yet. And that is actually one of the challenges of building a game the way we're building it, sort of, well, people are playing it and we're building it. Death of Spaceman is a good example, because it's something that I talked about at the very beginning as a core concept. It's always been a core concept, but we're only just now getting around to starting to implement the actual functionality.
You do see the passion from him, though, right?
And I think,
when he's talking about this,
people behave very
you do see the passion
in the verse, which is going to be super cool.
Yeah. Now, you buried the lead there at the end. That's big news. We are now beginning the process of actively putting this into development. It's been this idea. It's been this core tenet of Star Citizen.
Jared should push a little harder. You're right, Native.
Since it was first introduced. You just gave us a wonderful refresher. So they just still on the website. If you haven't read it, you want to read even more detail, you can check that out. But that basically brings everybody up to speed with where we're at here. Now, Richard, we are beginning the process of putting these things into active development.
Good.
Of that process where we're going to start working on it, start testing these ideas, building our Tier 0 implementations. Where do we start?
So, well, we've already kind of started. So body dragging was the first feature that we released that kind of gave you the premise to be able to manipulate, dead bodies. But as Chris calls out, death is going to be a really important factor in Star Citizen.
This is the thing about what he's talking about. This is interesting because we had this talk nearly, 5-6 months ago, guys? We had a Death of the Spaceman talk when they started introducing different forms of medic gameplay. When they introduced the Cutlass Red, we started talking again about Death of a Spaceman. It deals directly with your health, with your life. And we had this talk back when the Cutlass Red came out. And we had this talk once again when the Body Dragon came out. So yes, in a way, it has already started, and it's happening organically.
Now, death, there's kind of 3 deaths along the spectrum. There's kind of what we're calling like.
I would love that too, Anak.
So
I would love to see statistics.
Your health has gone to 0
on ages of SC players. That would be
when you're
awesome.
In that scenario, you'll be able to kind of choose to kind of stay there and be like, okay, I need my buddies to come and rescue me. I need the law enforcement to come and help me, or maybe I've paid for some.
Like let's take these 3 for instance in real life, right, Anak? Right? You've got the young new star pilot right here. You've got like the wizened CEO over there, right? Slightly older, slightly middle-aged. Then you got the grizzled kind of a little bit more, middle-aged going into like older Jared right now with his beard. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want in the game too, Anak. I want to be able to see that. I want to be able to see like who is a part of this crew? Like who am I involved with, right? Limitless Factor says the age before and after Fleet Week would be interesting. Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun, dude.
My body or something like that. Then there is the kind of like you've died in terms of you've given up the ghost. Nobody's coming. You're like, okay, that's it. I'm leaving that body there, and I'm gonna go back to a hospital and be revived. But that's kind of part of your DNA. That DNA is kind of going to be reimpregnated into essentially a clone of you. And then you'll be able to then go back to your location, and you'll be able to see, your dead body there. And as long as nobody's been there, you'll be able to retrieve your gear and so on and so forth.
Wait. Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what they're doing now. They're kind of taking the initial concept. They're saying, hey, that's $29.50. We're getting a little bit more in depth. We're gonna basically create a clone of you, a backup clone with your DNA. Makes more sense, really. Yeah.
The third aspect in terms of like you passing on to your next of kin and that kind of thing. So what we're actually evaluating now is kind of how this is integrated into kind of like the core healing gameplay and the actor status. So we already did kind of some of the actor status with, temperature in terms of hypothermia and hyperthermia and things like, starvation and things. And what we want to do now in terms of the next iteration of this is what we call like the healing and actor status T1. And what that will do is introduce drugs. So you'll have a blood drug level and you'll be able to manipulate things, but it will also introduce all the different statuses that are surrounding you as a character. So for example, when you're in battle and you take a really bad wound to the arm, you might say, okay, I've got a fracture, so my arm, I've got a permanent fracture. I'd have to go back to the hospital to get that repaired. Otherwise, I'm going to start to suffer some status effects that is surrounding that. But if you keep taking damage and you keep taking more damage, that fracture might turn into an actual break, and then it might turn into actually coming out of your arm kind of thing. And the level of that status will dictate the level of cover and level of healing that you need to get to go and basically get that healed. So you can go to a med bay and get them repaired, but it also allows other people to act as like support roles and come to say help you. And let's say you've got a really bad broken leg, which means that you can't walk anymore because you haven't just like fallen over and taken a little scratch. You've repeatedly taken damage in your leg and not gone you've not gone to heal it, because medipens, for example, will no longer just be like, oh, I'm a medipen, I'm full health. You will have these permanent statuses like hypothermia and hyperthermia. And so you'll have to have those will only be able to be removed when you go to these locations, either a medical bay in a ship or a medical bay at these hospital locations. So when essentially you go into that downed state, that's where body dragging will come in, so that people can come in and drag your body back to the medical facility. We're going to have obviously the medical gun in terms of the multi-tool attachment. We'll be able to inject essentially the material that's inside the medipens, but a stronger version of that. So the medipens will basically turn into something that is kind of stabilizing.
I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. I'm liking they're adapting some of the game design that we've already inserted into SC, and he's relating it to how it will mesh with Death of a Spaceman's narrative. Very cool. Good to see you, Donnie. We just got done watching it. I will be releasing it to YouTube. Right now, I'm playing catch up, Donnie. I am playing catch up because I've been gone for about a good 2 solid weeks in a Resident Evil type Umbrella Corp scenario in real life, which was really interesting. And I am now catching up on all the content. And I would like to take some time out to thank those that are still here after the Inside Star Citizen review, because, I understand that a lot of you already saw this. And I really appreciate those that are still here chilling out, having a good time with the fam. So thanks very much. And, feel free, talk it out, throw some questions out, let's talk, let's have some talking points, right? Mercury Star Runner. Yep. We were talking about that earlier. E-Rad, we were talking about that earlier.
You in the moment.
That's right, Sabla. That's right.
You've got a bleed,
fam.
Like that.
Chilling out, having a good night tonight.
And that kind of allows you to get back to safety. And at that moment in time, you can then go, okay, do I want to push on? But I've got this status effect that's causing, if I go back to the background, my weapon's now swaying more. And similar to how we had the eyeball effects for the other things. And that progression of the actor status T1 in terms of the different limb statuses that you're going to have in terms of whether you've got a traumatic brain injury, whether you've got leg injuries, whether you've got arm injuries, whether you've got internal bleeding in terms of your organs. The level of those statuses will basically go up to the point of view where you're like, I can no longer function now, and I need somebody to come out. And you'll have plenty of opportunity to back out. So it's not going to be something that's going to be like, oh, hello, you've broken your legs, and that's it. It's going to be something like the other actor statuses that is like, okay, you're going to have junction points where you can make a decision where you're like, should I go on? And it's that moment like in the Arctic, I'm close to the edge, but I might lose my toes. So
that is a very cool scenario he's laying out there. So essentially, you're going to have these very interesting inflection points in your life as a citizen, in which, you have these medical issues, and they're relatively, some could be minor, but the larger issues that happen to you, like say you lose a leg, perhaps you can, easily put on like a prosthetic or a robotic leg, for instance. All right, great. So now you have the leg, but perhaps maybe movement isn't as great. Perhaps something about the movement isn't as great with that prosthesis. And, perhaps you're swaying around a little bit more than you like, but you got to the point where it's like, hey, you can go here, or perhaps you would like to just, poof, and get back to your clone and start fresh and start anew so that you aren't stuck in a scenario that you aren't necessarily happy with. So, okay, they got an opt-out kind of scenario. All right, okay. All right. Sabla's listening while he's playing Transport Fever. I never played Transport Fever. I never played it. What do you think of it?
Essentially, what we're working on right now is that kind of like healing circle and that healing gameplay.
Right, Native. Right, dude.
It allows that cooperative gameplay that when you do go into this down state, which covers like it's the first version of the 3 death states kind of thing, that's the state where you really want to. You don't want to go to the next stage, because as soon as you go to the next stage, that is what Chris touched on in terms of like, it's almost like the DNA integrity.
Donnie, tactical potato chip for the Star Runner.
When we release this, it'll be your hospitals will be live in the locations. You'll be able to go to these hospitals and almost like download your DNA matrix into the hospital database and say, okay, like if my body is unrecoverable or my friends can't get to me, then I'm gonna kind of die and have to be recloned into this body. That my DNA is going to have to be re-imprinted into this shell. And during that process, that's the process where your DNA can kind of fracture or kind of lose some of its integrity. And that is kind of what Chris touched on in terms of like you're losing a life in terms of gameplay terms. So, and that is what's happening as it's being imprinted into you. And depending on the manner of your death, and depending on like, if you've just been ignoring all of these statuses and all of your arms don't work and your legs don't work and you've got a brain bleed, some of that DNA integrity as it's been injected back into your body can be re-inherited from those basically systemic statuses that you've had. And that means that you might come back in your body with a prosthetic arm, or you might come back that, your eye color has changed, or you're not as tall as you used to be. And because, there's something that's gone wrong with that DNA.
Jared's like, oh, Jesus. Jared's like, that's gonna be years worth of design right now, what we're talking about. He kind of had that guffaw, that little bit of chuckle, like, oh Jesus, we're opening Pandora's box with this one, didn't he? That was great, dude. I loved it. This is a lot of this will take some time to put in the game. This will take some time. What he's explaining, the development involved with this could be lengthy, but I think it's worth pursuing. I think it's worth developing this to keep that narrative alive of Death of a Spaceman.
So that's kind of what we're working towards now in terms of that hospital healing gameplay loop, actor status, the extension of the actor status system.
Right, sir. That's what they're saying. Right. So in summation, we are now upgrading the conversation, or we're evolving the conversation to what Sir has said. So essentially what they are saying is that when you die, you get cloned, but your DNA suffers or degrades each time. It's like a copy of a copy. A copy of a copy. It's a good Nine Inch Nails song, by the way. Copy of a copy. But yeah, so your DNA suffers, degrades each time, and eventually becomes too degraded, so you actually die. So that's the conversation that's being had right now. Exactly, sir. Good job, dude.
Body dragging and all of that kind of setting your spawn point in terms of game terms and the live. That's the stuff that we're working on right now. And to be honest, that's going to be a significant change in how people play the game, because when you go to the next
consequences
stage,
you see Chris smile,
you're shedding a tear.
He loves it. He wants that.
I'm shedding my tear at the inheritance tax that I've just been levied, and it's at that stage,
an inheritance tax.
Permanent.
And that's what we talked about as well, right? The inheritance tax. I like it. You lose some of your assets when you die. When you're dead, you lose some, just some of them. The inheritance tax. I think that's also important to keep. I think that element of game design is very important. It reinforces consequences. That's why Chris smiled. Native says, curious, if you eat too much Big Bennies, do you think that will shorten your time to the next clone? I think it could. I think it could, native.
Permanent death, where you're having to pass on to your next of kin, where it is, the sins of the father. You're
Stay
still
away
gonna
from
have
those
some of
chili
your
dogs, native.
reputational statuses, but they may not be as high as they were, because it's like, oh, your dad was part of XYZ, but you're going to have to prove yourself. And so and that kind of loop is a really unique aspect in terms of an MMO, and that really ties into that, death has a real meaningful consequence. Like in Demon Souls,
Guys are getting me hungry
the amount
now.
of times you get to the boss and you're like, you get to that 1%, and your palms are sweaty and you're moving the mouse and you're like, no, that all of
That's
a
what Chris
sudden
wants. You
changes,
see?
when
Yes,
you get
that's
to
what
the
I
edge of
want.
that cave,
Yes.
And you're like,
It's like
yeah,
Anak
I'm
was
just gonna go
saying,
in there
growing
and,
up in that
but,
era
if I
of
find
gaming, we
something
loved
in
the
there that's
consequences.
not
It made
friendly to me,
it
then,
made playing the
you know what,
game
I'll
much
just
more
respawn.
meaningful.
Now it's going to be like, well, if I respawn, what happens to my ship? And, am I going to lose my gear? I'm going to have to come back to it, because obviously physical inventory ties into it. And then, oh, will I lose some of my DNA integrity? And how's that? And all of a sudden, it changes the choices you make.
Right, sir.
along
Right.
the journey
And
that
yes,
you're
they
going
did,
on.
native.
And that is critical.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things we're doing is that we're not going to be despawning player bodies anymore.
I'm gonna try and hit the next Citizen Con. I'm really gonna save up for it.
That's there, and all the equipment.
And report there. I really want to.
Having to be sort of recloned, you could essentially go back to where you died and recover some of your stuff and see the skeleton of your previous incarnation. But the other thing I would say is that the cost of sort of the new
That'd be
life,
funny, Rad.
and you're only gonna have
you and I should go together, bro.
Is much more than
that'd be a lot of fun.
Getting rescued or having someone come and grab you and fix you up. So there will also be an economic incentive.
I'll bring Christy
to live.
We'll all have fun, dude.
Essentially, not just go, oh yeah, I'm just going to respawn, because A, you're only going to get a very limited number of those, and B, they're going to be very expensive. So you would prefer to have other players or your friends or a service come and get you and fix you up. And I think that'll be really useful and important, because like even in gameplay, okay, if I'm now exploring in a corner of the universe that doesn't really have a lot of people,
yes, and they should cost a considerable amount of money, sir. Yeah,
a really well-traveled area of space. I think in terms of gameplay, things like finally,
yeah, please don't, dude.
The full
she'll blow a gasket.
Death of a Spaceman setup and the physical inventory. The gameplay potential and just what's going to happen and the interplay with players is there's not other games that I think of that quite have all this stuff all together to do this at this level of detail. And I personally, I just think I'm super excited to have these.
Yeah, it should be very hefty, sir.
Obviously, it's taken a while, but that's because we're building something incredibly high fidelity with all this detail, but with all this scope. But it really will change.
I don't know, but like I did a video about talking about the hashtag Vag with Christy, and I was making Vag merch, and I put that video on the channel because I had a talk with Christy about it, and she thought it was lewd. That's actually when I made the merch. When we had the talk and she got upset, I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. I've completely triggered her. That means I need to make hashtag Vag yoga pants. And then I showed her that the next day. It's on the channel where I talk about it, man. I'm gonna, you know what? I just did a podcast with her. I'll release it not this weekend, but next weekend. So for the VIP members, we got a podcast talking about 311 with the family coming up this Saturday that I got to work on. So there's gonna be that. And then next weekend, there'll be a podcast where it's just me chilling out with Christy and we're just bullshitting. That's going to be a fun one. And perhaps I'll get her on again and we'll just talk about the Vag experience. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm not worried about it. As you can see, I'm not worried about it at all, Red.
A lot of the gameplay mechanics, a lot of how people are playing the game right now, just you wouldn't want to do. It just wouldn't make sense, and I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, and hopefully you can see some of the method to the madness of the development, because it's something. It's not like, hey, overnight we go,
This is a no drama zone, Erad. This is
it's underpinned.
the people that are here are hardcore
DG360
DG360 community members that understand the conversation. You understand they've invested. They take their time out to be part of this community, to be part of the fam. They're not going to get offended.
Picture of what we want to achieve, and that core gameplay loop of, you know, I'm not just stepping into my ship and flying into space, and I could just open my PMA and just have access to everything I want, and you know, there's no consequence, there's no feeling of that you're in the world because of, you know, you have this access to this infinite bag of holding. This consequence of I'm going on a real adventure, the things that I take with me are the things that I have access to. The ships that I have dictate how.
I love the way that he's talking about it.
You know what I have access to inside.
I like that he's assigned to this task.
Provides me food and drink.
I think Chris did good here picking this guy. I think he did real good picking this guy.
Is he going to wear support armor that allows more replenishment of the medical gun that can revive me when I'm down in the cave?
Space crab armor, protecting your Johnson.
And not just a single player, oh, I've just got access. All of a sudden, those shared experiences are the things that make it a true experience. And that is something that all of these individual systems, you know, in isolation, they're really cool, and you know, we put a lot of effort and a lot of heart into them, and you know, they're complex because we want it to be scalability on a size of Star Citizen. But when you pull them all together and they start talking to each other and they start, you know, okay, have you got space for the amount of food and drink you need? Have you got space for ammo? What guns are you taking? Am I going to take the grenade launcher? Well, I can only fit so many, you know, magazines of that. Well, maybe I should take an energy rifle because that recharges. And all of those different decisions, all of that ties into making it, you know, that's when all of a sudden you go, hold on a minute, the game was already there. We just needed to have these systems start talking to each other.
I feel like at some point we...
That's awesome. Okay, that's awesome. That is an awesome moment, man. Like, these guys are like, it's like watching Chris's younger clone of himself, man. This is insane. He's got the exact concept in his head the way that Chris has the concept of it. It's like a carbon copy. It's the irony is that this is Chris's real life clone when he dies. Because this guy has got the same passion that Chris does with Death of a Spaceman. What is going on? What is this, man? This is art imitating life or life imitating art.
We need to rebrand this to the life and death, and then in parentheses, and taxes
I love it.
Of a spaceman.
I love it.
It would be the more appropriate.
I mean, ultimately, we do joke a little bit about, but you know, the goal with Star Citizen is to, you know, essentially it's a virtual life. I mean, and we are trying to simulate, or
awesome.
You know, obviously in a more primitive state.
I love that they didn't back down. Oh, this could have been so much worse. They could have backed down. I would have got fucking triggered, and you'd just see me ranting all day. All day long, I'd have been ranting. You know, I was really worried about this. I haven't seen this. I know a lot of the people here have seen it. And I know some of you guys left because you're like, oh, I saw this already. But this is important to me, man. This is like an initial concept that I was worried about because it was so old. I thought that all the millennials would come in and say, no, I don't want it. I don't want consequences. I just want to wake up and keep shooting every day, every single day. I wanted some consequences, man. I wanted that old school roots. There's some goddamn consequences, real life immersive feel. This is why it's important to watch this. Thanks for being here with me, guys. I'm so happy that they didn't back out on this initial concept. This is so nice.
Like all the things that would happen, like naturally you would think, okay, if I'm going to go to the Antarctic, I've got to like bring my supplies with me. I've got to worry about if I get hurt and all these things that, you know, I think great gameplay opportunities and also great cooperative gameplay opportunities, right? So there's a lot of things that we talk
Thanks,
about.
Native.
That clearly, if you're, you know, going to be adventuring in a dangerous place, having the equipment and having people with you is probably a good thing.
So happy they didn't back down. So happy.
By yourself. And so I feel like when we get a lot of, I mean,
yes,
you know,
yes,
there's
Tech.
been a lot of
absolutely Tech
on the very low level and some scalable stuff that we have to do to enable a lot of the.
It's the attitude, though. It's the attitude, sir. You know, a lot of people have real thin skin and they get upset when I say shit like that. In fact, we've lost over half of our, more than half of our audience for two reasons. One, because they've seen this already and they don't have the patience to have dialogue with us. Right. So we don't need those people. Right. We don't. I personally, I give a shit about those people. I give a shit about the people that are in here right now. Right. because we're having dialogue about a concept within the game. I don't care if it's just one person in here. I don't care. I like the fact that there's somebody out there that wants to have this dialogue, that needs this dialogue. I think that's great. And when I say millennials, I'm not talking about actually anybody who's younger. I'm talking about the whole methodology, the way that the millennial mind thinks, where for the most part, consequences don't factor in because there are no consequences for most of these millennials. The mindset of a millennial. So I hope people understand that when I say that. It's a mindset. That there are no consequences to your actions is a millennial concept.
Systems and, but, over the next year or 2 years, we've got a lot of this stuff sort of coming online. And I feel like when they all start interoperating together, that it will be an experience like no other. I mean, I don't know another game that does it to the level. I mean, there's some games that do.
They're not backing down, and really I love that. They're keeping it hardcore. There's a bunch of
other stuff that sort of
keeping
does,
it hardcore.
Elements of this, but I think not to the scope and the level and the detail that we're doing. And that's one of the reasons why it's taking so long. So, I mean,
right.
That is, it's definitely taking longer than I'd like it to do. And it's part of my frustration when, people are like, well, where's my gameplay loops? And I'm like, but, it's going to be so awesome. You've got all these elements and, I know the big picture. I know how they're all going to.
And not only is he making the game that he wants, but there's an audience, Techno, right? There's an audience gravitating to the game that he wants to the point where it's the game that we want. It's that communal kind of vibe, right? He's so very passionate about explaining it. They've got so many tech hurdles to jump over. There's so many things that they're doing to try and trailblaze the genre of gaming that I believe that the passion that we're seeing here from Chris isn't solely based upon the revenues. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the way that it's presented, it looks that way sometimes. But when we see him like this, you're literally seeing Chris being passionate about the game. About the gameplay. Did you just see his frustration about people that are saying, oh, we want game loops. Oh, we want game loops. And do you understand that Chris is saying, hey, oh, that's Christy calling me right now. Hold on a second. I'll call you back, honey. If you're watching, I'm so sorry. I'm with the fam right now. I got to message her because she will be very upset if I don't talk to her. But did you see how upset he got when he started talking about game loops? Because he's like, guys, you can play with one another right now in the game, and you can create game loops now with what is in the game. So there's a little bit of frustration there because, it tends to go over people's heads.
Pulled together. And it's just one of the things that when you're making a game live, developing in front of people, that people experience you wouldn't normally. Normally, most game developers will tell you in the old way, certainly was when I was making the Wing Commanders and all the rest of stuff.
Okay,
and
texting Christy now.
Opinion on on all the ones that he was making. That, the game really only comes together near the end, right? So you work on all these disparate parts. And you do it for years, especially in today's world. People work on it for years and years and years.
All right, let's see
and
what
then
she says.
It really
today.
only comes together sort of kind of in that sort of alpha to beta stage. And, we're sort of, I know we say we're alpha, but we still got a lot of features to come. And normally a traditional alpha would be, you've got your, features there, but you don't have all your content polished. And then beta is all content and features are in there and you're working on the bugs. So a lot of it doesn't. I mean, Wing Commander, you weren't playing through until, a couple of months before we released the game, and it was all in different pieces. But
right.
In the way we do Star Citizen, people see us develop all these pieces in different parts and they go, well, why you got?
Yes, because this is the way, this is what people don't understand. I love this. I love that he's explaining this because never, ever in the industry have we looked under the hood like this ever in terms of game development, ever on a scale this big. This is something that you don't ever see outside gaming talk about. The journos over at Outside Gaming that haven't even played the game, that have admitted they haven't even played the game, and yet rag on Cloud Imperium and Star Citizen all the time without even playing the game. that exists right now. Shit.
You got that. That just seems silly that you're focusing on this aspect over here when I don't have this other thing over here. Well, we have a plan. They're all working. We're working on all those pieces, and when they all come together.
Yes, Tech, exactly. Do you understand? Sort of right, Tech, you do, like, imagine to be able to be part of this in the 90s, Tech. This is exciting. Some people, this is flying right under the radar. They don't even understand how exciting of a time this is right now to be able to be part of game development like this. Some people, it just goes right over their fucking head. That is just like something that is not even talked about. There's no discussion about it out there, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that that's not even being talked about.
And yes, there's going to be a lot more, but there's already fun stuff to do.
Inside laming, I like that one.
I see amazing videos every single day. It's like one of the funnest things for me to see. Cool videos by whoever. Like there was one that Terada just did, and on 311 that I that was shared around here, and there was someone. I mean, anyway, the point is, this is really cool stuff that people are doing with the sandbox we're building, even though the sandbox is unfinished. But whether it's me or Richard or Todd Pappy or Tony Zurovec, we're all operating at the level of we see the matrix. We just haven't built all the elements of the matrix yet.
I love it. I love it.
Together, and when it's done, it'll be like this amazing simulation. And our only frustration is because it's not like me and Richard are like, oh yeah, guys, take longer. It's like me and Richard and Todd and everyone else are like, is it really going to take you that long to do that feature? You sure you can't do that in half the time? So we're always on their case. So I know everyone out there is on our cases, but it's sort of like we're on the other way around. But some of this stuff just takes time to build it, to test it, and also to do it when you're doing it in a live game.
There's so much pressure. There's so much pressure on these guys, man.
You can't just break everything by introducing a new feature. You've got to make sure
there's so much pressure on these guys.
But to be honest with you, it's actually a fun way to do it because a lot of how we're doing it also informs our development as we go along, because we've got our big plans, but some of the feedback we get helps tweak how things are coming in, or what areas we'll address, or what things worked well or what things didn't work well that we need to adjust. And if you were doing it the old way, you wouldn't get that feedback. You'd just basically put it all out there. It'd be your best shot at it, and then you'd be like, oh shit, well, we gotta fix this thing or improve this thing, and so I like it. And also just people experiencing what we're building so far is awesome for the team as well, because the team they get all inspired when they see cool stuff that the community is doing. So there's upsides and downsides to what we're doing, but I wouldn't change it for the world, because I think it's one of the funnest things I've had.
It's a hell of a journey this has been. It's awesome. A hell of a journey that this has been for all of us, man.
Reading the Matrix, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm the guy sitting here for 6 years now trying to do an online correspondence course, how to read the Matrix. Every week, just I gotcha. We are at time at this point. Dude. The wonderful thing about interviewing either Chris or Richard is that I come with all these questions, and I only ever have to ask one, because then they just kind of just hit everything. I'm like, I don't have to ask that. I don't have to ask that. Before we let you go, just one final thing. For some folks, this is going to be kind of a new idea. For many folks, they've been following along with this since 2013. As Richard said, we're building this out actively. We have been. All of these actor feature things are all laying the groundwork. They're all the foundation for this. When this is done, it's not going to be like a big switch. There's not going to be one day there's not Death of Spaceman, and then the next day.
Jared's so right. This is a gradual movement. This is like the waves in a fucking ocean. It just kind of it just keeps until eventually you're like, oh yeah, well yeah, I'm in the ocean. That's how it's gonna happen. It's not just like some on switch where it's like, okay, everyone, we're done. It's not the experience here, man. We are in the game development. We are in it. We are in it.
There is Death of a Spaceman. These things will come in iterations, just like anything else does. Tier 0 of cybernetics, Tier 0 of hospital, stuff like that. One last bit of like expectation setting. What without giving dates or anything. What can people expect going forward? How do we go from here? What's the plan from here, generally speaking?
That was great.
I don't get in trouble.
What's up, Giro?
Okay. So what we're planning
How you
on
doing,
working
bro?
on
Good to see you.
in,
Thanks for that great
in
mod
the
work in the
future, so
Discord, bro.
relatively soon, shall
Great
we
mod
say,
work. There's Jiro. He's not a
is
bot.
kind of the hospital groundwork. So the hospitals in the locations, the ability for you to be able to go to those hospitals and kind of download your DNA.
People
is
are
kind of
thinking
like
you're a
the
bot,
save
Jiro.
point, or kind of like the area that where you would be respawned. We already obviously have body dragging in and some of the medical bays in there, but what we'll be introducing is active status T1. So that will be drugs. So for example, we'll be introducing some drugs as part of that. So like adrenaline. I think we've already got some black market drugs in there that will tie into this, but also like alcohol. So if you go to the bartender, you'll be able to get drunk, and we'll have the relevant animations and locomotion sets that tie into that. Because obviously then there'll be a risk reward that you can't just keep medipenning like you can't in real life. You can't just keep popping paracetamol,
Yes. Yes, Tech.
all of that kind of thing will kind of tie into it in terms of that blood drug level. And that
Very
will,
good to bring that up. Yes.
Taking drugs, you will eventually, overdose and you need to be revived. So you'll have to manage that on that active status side of things. And we'll also be introducing the healing loop in terms of those being able to revive you from a down state, and obviously that in the DNA
That broke me, Red.
so as you basically go die, you'll be able to have battle through revive, so we can bring you back in the same body, and that is obviously you'll be there, but you may come back with you may have visuals, but that won't be part of T0, the visuals, just to be clear. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're working on, that core gameplay loop, active status T1 and hospital locations.
That was a good
Those
one,
are the three main big kind of like areas that we're trying to push forward on, and hopefully alongside physical inventory, which is we're also actively working on. I mean, I've done multiple talks on and I think every patch we do something to do with like updating UI and all of that is in along the journey. We've just been releasing small bits, but that will tie into it. So kind of like healing active status, hospitals, and
we are getting
physical inventory.
We were getting hit the past 2 days. I've been gone for 2 weeks and our Discord has exploded. Like, we have been bringing in more people. Apparently when I go away, like, everybody comes into the Discord. We are nearly over, I think we're over 900 members right now in Discord. And we just exploded in the 2 weeks that I was gone in our Discord server. But then we started getting like bots from this Uniswap Bitcoin currency thing, and I was like, what the hell? I was looking at those people coming in trying to like post spam, and then Jiro, boom, took care of the problem. Like the architect in the Matrix. Boom. That's why I love Jiro. Intelligence, man. That IQ. So sexy, Jiro. Stop it. Stop it. You're making my no-no spot very excited, Jiro.
Those kind of things will kind of come
professional,
hopefully kind of come as one thing to be able to deliver that experience. But if they don't, then we'll make it work as they come. But that's kind of the stuff we're actively working on right now.
All right. And then one more follow-up. Earlier you said that sometimes
that's right, Native.
You might come back shorter. Were you just giving an example, or are you confirming short characters?
I was giving an example. Definitely not confirming
people were going to grab onto it, and there was going to be a Reddit thread, so I had to ask. All right, thank you guys so much.
I like the banter. I like it. I loved it. I loved all of this. This is great. This gives me faith in the project, man. When I hear shit like this, they're keeping to the original narrative. For those of you who have been here this whole time and got onto this bonus section of the Inside Star Citizen review, after we finished the Inside Star Citizen review, we had many members. Just stick with us. They stayed with us. The people that are here right now that stayed through the entirety of it, damn, you're in my will and testament. You understand? Family, hardcore. You're there for me when shit gets rough. I'm looking to you. When shit gets rough for you, you look to me. That's what I'm talking about. Great convo. Absolutely great convo. And you know what? Yes, I'm telling you, Tech, I love the fact that they stayed with the original narrative. They didn't back down due to the pressures that are out there for everybody ragging on the initial concept. I think the initial concept is great. I'm glad to hear the way that they're going to design the game to enhance Death of a Spaceman. I love what I heard. I feel good about it. Now I understand why I got so many DMs for people wanting me to watch this. I understand it. I had so many DMs when I got back into Discord today. I can't even tell you how many. Hey, did you watch Death of a Spaceman? Hey, did you watch Death of a Spaceman? Well, there we go. I watched it for you guys. And I like how they're going about the gameplay. Right. We are here for the next level immersive gameplay, and you guys are here because you got that next level fam here. You guys, we're down for each other. We're always here for one another. You guys are awesome. Absolutely love you. I had a wonderful time tonight. It is great to be back. It feels so good to hang and chill and have fun with you guys. Fun! Does anybody remember laughter? Well, we do here. We do here. We like to have fun. We like to have our serious business talks, but we also like to have fun. See, Rad, good to see you, man. And thanks for that little conversation point on Inside Star Citizen review. Thank you so much for that, dude. Thank you for taking the time to make me look at that. That was a wonderful talk we had there. Thank you for cracking me up as well. Apollo, wonderful to see you, man. Go check out Apollo, makes really great gameplay Star Citizen videos. You know, I'm going to take some time out next week, and I'm going to find a way in which I can help you guys out, you young guns out there that are starting to Star Citizen content. You guys deserve it. And people that are making content, like there's got to be a way. If you guys want to get involved, I know our bot posts when our crew goes live. Get with me in the Discord if you'd like to be part of that. I don't think it helps out a ton, but you get a little bit more visibility. And that might help you guys, where I'm actually posting members of our community that are part of the network. You guys want to be a part of that, let me know. That way, when you guys post live on your Twitch stream, you show up in the Discord. But our Discord is blowing up. Our Discord is getting bigger, so it might be an avenue you want to take. Techno Blix, awesome. Go check him out as well. Great talks, wonderful talks about the real. Tech should have a hell of a lot more followers. Apollo should have a hell of a lot more followers. I remember a young Erad. I remember a 100 subscriber, 200 subscriber, 1,000 subscriber Erad. Now look at him. Boom. Surpassed Daddy. Surpassed me. Playing the game. He knows how to do it. He knows he's doing it right. Every day a video from Erad. Boom, boom, boom. Star Citizen. He knows what his family wants. Now see, that would burn me out a little bit. My style, love to have fun, love to talk about anything that interests me, including Star Citizen. But that's sometimes people just only want their Star Citizen. I get it. I understand that. But I do a hell of a lot more than that. And that's just my style. That's what I like to do. But I did enjoy this. Guys, thanks so much for joining me here today on this stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget, like, share, do all the stuff that the algorithm likes so that we can get the word out there about this community and great people in it and this channel and the content on it. Thanks, guys. See you on the next video stream. Having a great time. Don't forget, podcast this Saturday with the members of our community on 311 and what we think about it. Next week, and another podcast for VIP members where Christy and I are just shooting the shit and having a good time. And then I'm coming back strong next week. Content to be had on YouTube Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And boom. Peace out, my fam. Love you.